Well, hello and welcome to After the Sermon, a Bethany podcast where we have the privilege of digging deeper into our Sunday messages. I am Tammy Delau, and today I'm joined with Pastor Steve Musto, and we have a new friend that's joining us today, Andy Chown. We are so thrilled that you're with us. Do you want to tell our listening and viewing audience just a little bit about yourself?
Oh, sure. Well, yeah, my name is Andy Chown, and I've been attending Bethany since 1993. Played a number of roles, sound tech, stuff like that, and kid stuff. But recently I'm on the deacon board, so actively there.
Okay. Happy 30th anniversary at Bethany.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I didn't even do the math.
You.
Good job.
Well, I only know that because it's our 30th wedding anniversary. So I'm very sensitive to this right now.
This number.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Well, this summer we are walking through Psalms. And I know, Steve, as you were choosing your Psalms, you really prayed about who should be our guests because we are missing our partner in crime. But it's been fun to have these guests.
Yeah.
And you really felt like Andy was the guy who needed to be here for Psalm 16.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us why?
Yeah. Well, Psalm 16, because of what it is, you know, we turn to the Psalms in different times, and there are different Psalms. There's so many Psalms, but there's so many different Psalms for different things, different occasions, whatever it might be. And there are laments, there are songs of praise, there are all kinds of things. And, you know, Psalm 16 is like, everything's A-okay.
Yeah.
You know, if Simon and Garfunkel writing it, it'd be like feeling groovy.
Yeah, there you go.
Everything's just feeling groovy. Everything's fine. No big deal. And
I kind of want to make you come up with a song for every song.
Oh, I could
good.
totally.
Okay, let's talk. That'll be our new thing.
Yeah. Some
okay,
of them
feeling
would be,
groovy.
Some of them would be a little like, old.
Okay.
Because I like old music too,
Okay.
but that's okay. So I think with this one, David is writing. What I'm picturing in my head is David is established at this point as a king, and there's no chaos. There's nothing going wrong. All is well. Economy is thriving. The charts are up and to the right. Things are peaceful. And he's kind of walking around going, this is unbelievable. And where did this all come from? And so Psalm 16 recounts all the things that people put their trust in his day. And they cross over to our day too.
They really do mirror our days, don't they? Yes.
Here are the things that people put their trust in. And David says, I don't put my trust in any of these things. I put my trust in Yahweh and him alone. He is the one who has done all of this stuff. It's not about me. It's about him. And that we know David's going to have difficult times and has had difficult times even before this, but he's still able to recognize, he hasn't grown bitter. He hasn't grown angry. He's still able to recognize that it's God.
He's not arrogant. Yeah.
No. And he probably had all of those days, well, all those moments like we all do, but he's got a great perspective here. And so as I walked through this Psalm, I started thinking about you, Andy, because, well, one, you're my neighbor, so we see each other all the time.
Yeah.
But two, because I think knowing many of the things that you kind of been through in your life and things you've experienced, you have this, you could be angry, you could be bitter, you could also be kind of arrogant, and do the, I've come through this on my own steam and by my own power, and here I am, and you just don't, I don't see any of that in you. And what I see in you is this is about the Lord, and it's about serving people like the Lord. So I wanted in the midst of the podcast just for you to share a little bit about, as much as you're comfortable, about your story. So you were married, you got married.
Very young.
Yeah, very young. And so tell us about that and kind of walk us through that. Just
kind of childhood was rough, things like that. And there was this young woman I kept seeing, and there's something there.
Yeah.
It took her 2 years to say yes to go out with me. But it was just funny. There's that little nugget that I kept looking at. And like I tell most people is we finally went on a date 2 years later and I thought it was over. And the next day she walked through and she says, hey, I had a really good time. We'd like to go again. This was Saturday. I said, yeah, I'd love to go out on a date again. She says, well, my mom and I are going to church on Sunday. Do you know who Jesus is? I paused a little bit.
Yeah.
So anyway, I got to know who Jesus was through Val, my first wife.
Yeah.
And it had a lot of struggles. We got married a couple years after that. And Val helped put me through school, college. And then I got a job at the phone company and things started moving and we had a couple children, and our second child, when he was born, she had a mole on her back and they had it looked at and it was melanoma cancer. And it was hard. It was a hard thing to go through life, that we live in a very blessed area, living here in the U.S. We have so many things. And all of a sudden, I call it when life came undone.
Yeah.
And
because everything you're doing exactly what David is doing. Everything is, your career takes off.
yeah,
You're growing in Christ. Things are like, this is the American dream. This is the story.
yeah, I'm on fire for Christ. I'm learning. I'm growing. It's like,
And then Val gets the news that this is cancer.
yeah.
Okay.
And then it was, the doctor said maybe 10 years. And just had our second child, Brandon. So I thought, oh, God, what's happening here?
Yeah.
And through that journey, the 10 years went by quick. And then there was, our son went in for a physical. And the doctor said, hey, how are you feeling, Val? I was like, oh, that's strange. I'm here for my son's physical.
Yeah.
He goes, well, I see complexions in your face and stuff like that. I think you might have this rare disease called acromegaly. What's that? So she got tested for that, and it's a benign tumor behind your nose by your pituitary gland. And it was causing growth hormones in her body. So we went through several tests on that. And again, the doctor looked at us and said, 10 years of life. You have melanoma, you have acromegaly, and acromegaly is something that causes your internal organs to keep growing. So I use the word called IGF level, which is a growth hormone that starts producing in your body. And when you reach a certain age, that stops. Well, all of a sudden, Val's is growing.
Wow.
So everything's growing. And I seen her every day, so I really didn't see the face or the ears or any of the complexions that were changing. So that, put in perspective, that was around 97, 98.
Okay.
And so 10 years would be 2007 and whatnot. So needless to say, God said 25. So she got to watch both of her children graduate from high school. Both her children graduate from college. And it was a rocky road at times, but every time she would fall back, we'd always get better. And the kids would see that.
Yeah.
And it was good.
Yeah.
Except I would say into 2011, started 2012, the melanoma started attacking the body in a way that there was not a whole lot we could do about it.
Yeah.
They have a drug called BRAF, which would work from your neck down. So she did have surgery on her lungs. Parts of her lung was removed, but it kept attacking the brain over and over and over. So there's several trips going to Rochester, back and forth, sharing with our kids. It was hard for my son. He was really, really close to his mom.
Yeah.
And our daughter, we always called her like an angel because she was always there. She's always helping. And when you become a caregiver in that situation, you really don't sleep. You don't rest. You always sleep. I always tell people one eye open.
Yeah.
So a little bit of a struggle, but some really dear friends of mine in men's Bible studies and that would share with me and let me share back and forth when times are hard. Was I mad at God? Probably.
Yeah.
Wasn't fair.
Right.
You know, getting to know who God was, it was pushing me.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if this is the way it should be. So I also share in Romans where Paul talks about dying to self.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yes.
In this world that we live in, it's easy to fall within the worldly views of things. Yeah. And to totally sacrifice your life to God can be hard when challenges like this happen.
So you have, how old are the kids at the point where Val
So my
died?
kids were both out of college.
Okay.
They're in their 20s, mid-20s.
Okay.
So, and my youngest son proposed to his fiance and was scheduled to get married in 2013. And this would be in September of 2013. In 2013 was probably the toughest year of my life. Lost Val in August of 2013. She was able to go to the bridal shower and stuff like that. The cancer was attacking the brain. It was in the area of our motor skills. Had a hard time walking. But man, I remember we were in acute rehabilitation for 5 weeks. Val couldn't even walk. So at the end of 5 weeks, she was able to walk with a walker. And I remember when I dropped her off to go to the bridal shower, she chose to walk without the walker. Went into the house, and when I got to pick her up, she comes across the yard.
Wow.
So,
do you have hope? I mean, at that point, is there like a little bit of hope?
There is. And I'll tell you, my verse was Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And truly, I felt it. I seen it. And Val is an incredibly strong Christian woman. People would come to the hospital and visit with her. We were on, I believe it was 7th or 9th floor at Mayo. And it's usually a floor you don't leave. So many of the ladies were coming up to visit her, and I was sitting out in the front, and the ladies go, "Is it her birthday? Is it something?" I said, "No." But the joy and the laughter and the noise that was coming from the room was like, wow.
It had people wondering what was going on.
What was going on?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the testimonies that she shared with many people who God was enormous. Because, I mean, at her funeral, I would say 25% of the people were from the hospital.
Wow.
Oh, that says a lot.
It does.
So I know you, and most people know you as somebody with a lot of joy. Yes. Just joy comes off of you. It's hard to not be joyful.
It radiates.
Yeah.
Yes.
And be around you. So were you that way before Val died? Did you have that in you a little bit?
Probably not.
Okay. So that came after.
It was a struggle.
Yeah.
Through that huge trial for that year and a half, it was so hard, even affected our marriage in a sense where I would wrestle with God.
Yeah.
Literally, I call it wrestle. Most of people that know me, when we talk about wrestling, I talk about, because I was a wrestler.
Mm-hmm. Like
Watch
a literal
out.
wrestler.
A literal wrestler.
I was a wrestling cheerleader.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there you have it.
And I was always like, God showed me the lights, so you can go from a move to on your back and you can see the light. And I said, watch it, because God could pancake you. But through all those trials and through the nugget that I had with Val, seeing her showing me who God was, watching this trial, strengthened me through her testimony. And I just said, I'll put my trust in God.
Yeah.
This world has nothing to offer. I mean, to this day, when it was even over, I thought, marriage, all that, never.
Yeah.
Told God, I'm not marrying anybody from Bethany. I mean, it's just funny how it all happens.
Yeah.
And God has a total different plan.
Yeah. Yeah. I when I think of how many people feel like in their marriage is not great, you know, and they married somebody and the person they're married to is just lousy. You got twice. You got, I mean, I didn't know Val at all. I know Lisa. She's amazing.
He won the lottery twice.
How is that? Come on, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah, I know. I am. No kidding. Yeah. So
truly blessed.
How does, as I'm looking at the Psalm and I'm looking at David walking around, because David goes through all this same kind of stuff. His wife is taken away, given to someone else. I mean, there's just so much that he's gone through, even as a young man.
Right. The person he's trying to serve and love wants to kill him.
Kill him.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a kind of a father figure, and he wants to take his life, loses his best friend in Jonathan. I mean, so much. But he also has this same response where eventually, of course he wrestles with God, but what comes back is, I realize that all the things in my life come from the Lord. So at some point you start enjoying life again. And how do you keep the perspective then of this is about the Lord, it's not about me?
Or even, as you're sharing, I'm like, oh, that's so scary, because if this wife were to get a diagnosis, it would be so easy to live in fear. So how do you live in the joy that we see radiating?
There's a very pivotal point in my life when Val went up for her last radiation. And the reason I say it's the last, I didn't want this radiation where they put this halo on, if you want to say, and it's called gamma knife, and they radiate the cells in the brain. And because of the acromegalia, which is causing your internal organs to be larger than normal, then you put melanoma on top of it, you do the radiation. They say it's like an orange that will shrink up and dissolve within your body. And when they've done it time after time, they say you have a 30% chance of bleeding. And I looked at him and I said, I don't see 30%. I see 100% because it's never not bled. So it's hurt my heart. So the last time we go up, they say the best thing we can do to stop the cancer from growing is to radiate it. It's in locations I can't get to surgically. So, okay. So we do this radiation. We're driving home and I'm hurting. I'm really hurting. And she's sitting beside me. And there's a song by Matthew West, I think, it's called I'll Save a Place for You. Okay. I get a little touched up, but she puts her hand on my leg and she says, don't worry. I know where I'm going. I'll save a place for you. And something with the hand in that conversation gave me the strength that I can do this. And from that conversation, there's many things. We have 2 children. Yes. I have to go.
Yep.
You need to raise them. You need to be there for them. Quit being a workaholic. Quit doing all these worldly things that draw you away.
So she said all of these things before God brought her home. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hold me.
That's a gift.
Right in. And from that pivotal point, I'm 100% in.
Yeah.
God is truly my refuge.
Well, I wonder, how different you would be and how different your life would be, because what David walks through is listing out, we talk about this in the message, but he lists out all these different things that we look to for our strength, that we look to for our joy, that we look to for our security. And so when you have that security, whatever it is you're putting your faith and trust in gets removed, all you have left is the Lord. And that is a tough lesson to learn in that way. And I want to encourage people, boy, if you don't have to learn this lesson going through something like that, if you are sitting out there, you're working way too many hours and not spending time with your family, and you don't have to go through something like this. I mean, wouldn't you just love that for people? I would love that for people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Work, sports.
Yeah.
My kids were very good athletes. It draws you all away from.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I know that we usually start reading the scripture verses at the beginning, but may I read it now? I think now would be a great time to read it.
Go for it.
All right. Protect me, God, for I take refuge in you. I said to Yahweh, you are my Lord. I have nothing good beside you. As for the holy people who are in the land, they are the noble ones. All my delight is in them. The sorrows of those who take another god for themselves will multiply. I will not pour out their drink offerings of blood, and I will not speak their names with my lips. Yahweh, you are my portion and my cup of blessing. You hold my future. The boundary lines have fallen for me in pleasant places. Indeed, I have a beautiful inheritance. I will bless Yahweh, who counsels me, even at night when my thoughts trouble me. I always let Yahweh guide me. Because he is at my right hand, I will not be shaken. Therefore, my heart is glad and my whole being rejoices. My body also rests securely, for you will not abandon me to Sheol. You will not allow your faithful one to see decay. You reveal the path of life to me. In your presence is abundant joy. At your right hand are eternal pleasures. You, our brother, embody that. So thank you. I know that's a hard story. And I'm honored that I got to hear it. I know Andy got to hear a little bit of it at the men's breakfast that you all did. So he came home and shared it with me. But it's very sweet to hear it firsthand. So are your children in the area here?
My son lives in Madison and my daughter lives in Black River Falls now.
Okay. So close.
Yep.
Yeah. And he has cute grandkids.
Yeah.
How many
goodness.
How many grandbabies do you have?
Yeah. So I have, my son has 2 kids and now married to a wonderful wife, Lisa.
Yeah.
And you're right. I've been blessed twice.
Yeah.
And there's 4 on her side. So we have a total of 6 grandkids and it's
very fun.
Outstanding.
Yeah, and what doesn't get said enough is not only are we friends, but our dogs, I think, are best friends too.
They are.
So that's always a joy.
It truly is.
I, as you were reading this, Tammy, there are always parts of it. The hard part of a psalm and of teaching a psalm is I want to take it little chunks at a time and do a whole message just on one little chunk and then come back, and I can't. I got to cover the whole thing. So, Lord, you're my portion and my cup of blessing. You hold my future, and the boundary lines have fallen for me in pleasant places. Indeed, I have a beautiful inheritance. And David is using the language of the people coming into the promised land. Right. So when people came into the promised land,
they didn't have land.
They didn't have anything.
Nothing.
And they weren't allowed. God didn't determine who got what with like arm wrestling or something. He decided.
Yes.
He decided by family and by clan and whatever who was going to get how much land. Some got a lot, some got a little less, some got, just whatever. And it was up to Yahweh himself to decide this. And so David is even reflecting on that. And he's using this language saying, man, I look at what you've given me, my portion, my allotment, and it's fallen to my favor, And so there's the other part of it is I've been thinking about our neighborhood and how great our neighborhood is. Yeah. We have wonderful neighbors.
We do.
And helpful, helping each other, but also we live in a place that by and large, we have enough. There is enough here. And there are always exceptions in every community, but we have enough. And the boundary lines have fallen in pleasant places where people right now might be listening to this in their cars. Well, you have a car, my goodness, or you have a cell phone. You're listening to this you're watching it on a computer
with your AirPods in your ears.
Yeah. These are blessings from God. These are the boundary lines that have fallen for us, and we just need to take a moment, because we get focused on the negative, we get focused on the challenging and the difficult, and we don't call a timeout and stand with a cup of coffee and look at whatever it is our little domain is, our apartment or something, and just say, God, this is amazing. I didn't sleep out in the cold last night. I wasn't eaten alive by mosquitoes last night. I got sleep in a bed, and thank you for this.
The hot weather. We have air conditioning.
We have air conditioning. Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
Yeah.
really, it's been warm.
Yeah. Well, mostly we have air conditioning because you helped me install a thermostat. But that's also part of the deal.
So he's a handyman too.
I don't want to say that too loudly because people
Start
will calling
using
him
your guy.
and I need him.
That's really good. Yeah, I think it's a challenge, as you will walk us through on Sunday, the different things that the people there would have put their faith in, put their trust in, and they do really parallel ours. So, and ultimately, yes, all the things we have, our boundaries have fallen good, but our inheritance is the Lord too. And so that, which is what you are speaking to. So it's so awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure. And thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.